Howdy, all of you delicious people. I'm here to debut Spirited. This is to be one of those kind of films where you have like an old concept and you present it in a new, fun way. And I was actually just won over by this film. I really did enjoy it. I know a lot of people can go on and say that it's like, well, it's on Apple Plus right now. Like, that seems really inconvenient. I'm going to go on and give you an app that you can dare, in fact, watch this movie for absolutely free. And this, of course, is an app called Vidlessy. Vidlesy. Vidlessy. You can go on and watch Spirited right now on this app for absolutely free. There's no fees of any kind. You can just go onto this app, download it through the Google Play Store, which it is on right now, and be able to watch Spirited for absolutely free. Because I, of course, just recently, like yesterday, had to go on and go through the Google Play Store and start to like kind of refine certain apps that I can go on and watch a number of stuff for free. And I was like, okay, like what works, what doesn't work. I did kind of refine all of this stuff all over again. So I found Vidlessy, and it of course goes on to have me be able to talk to you about Spirited. So, with that said, this of course is a movie about the somewhat like I don't know how exactly terminology I can go on and state all this, so I'm gonna kind of just state it this way. So we have this kind of afterlife division or department that is to want to go on and find certain people who are trolls or a-holes, or to really just be so far gone that they may not be deemed redeemable, to try and benefit the human race. And we go on to find Will's character, who's the Ghost of Christmas Present, who they focus on. And the interesting thing of it is we don't really have a name for Will's character, really, throughout this film. So we have me probably go on and want to state that Will's character is going to be probably called Present through most of this movie. As well as, of course, the Ghost of Christmas Past is just going to be called Past. Or we have Tracy Morgan, who voices the character, uh, Ghost of uh, Ghosts of Yet to Come, which I'm just gonna go on and state that it's gonna be Ghosts of the Future, because that just, to me, it just makes a lot more sense. I'll probably just call him either Yet to Come or I'll call him Future. So we have Will, who has gone on and done this whole redeeming people thing for far too long, 46 seasons to be exact, and it seems that he is close to doing what the afterlife calls retirement, and is to possibly get a second chance at life, bizarrely. So we have Will's character that before he goes is going to take this one last case, and this one last case has to be the most challenging for him. And we come to find out throughout this that Will, as well as these other ghosts, are kind of biting off more than they can chew against Clint's character, who of course doesn't see anything to do with the eras of his ways, and it's really just go on and take full-fledged advantage of this opportunity like anything else. So we have, of course, the reference of Scrooge and like the Bill Murray movie. I think that was called Scrooged or Scrooge. There's a lot of different variations that this kind of story has gone on and been told in a number of different ways. I think even at one point, like Jim Carrey had kind of voiced the Scrooge character in some animated thing. So, with that said, uh, I thought that this movie was fun. There was even a couple times where I kind of laughed, I kind of chuckled, and so yeah, I would definitely state that this is a. I'll say that it's a good film, a a movie that I would probably recommend for people who can see Spirited. It is a musical movie, so more than likely that might be either in the plus or minus column for a lot of people. But yeah, but the story was to seemingly be a lot of interesting. So check it out on an app called Vidlesy, Vidlesy. I don't know if I've already stated that, but you can check out Spirited for absolutely free and be able to watch it and enjoy it for what it is. So, with that said, let's just go on into the Double Five time territory because it is about that time yet again to, of course, go into spoiler time. Spoiler time is about that time again to spoil Spirited. So, in the very beginning of this story, we have Will, who is talking about, are all people really unredeemable? That they have gone too far to the dark side, that there's no pulling them back. So, we have the ghost of Christmas Present, who is to be Will's character here, as he is showcasing the ghost of Christmas Present, the ghost of yet to come, and then Will shows himself and he's saying, "Yeah, I'm Brad Pitt. No, I'm not Brad Pitt. I'm the ghost of Christmas Present." So we have Will going on, and he's working on this case of a girl named Karen. So we of course have the ghost yet to come to go on and kind of be wrapping up what he's doing by pointing to Karen's grave. And Karen is looking at her grave, realizing she's going to die. And she's like, okay, well, I'll change and I'll do whatever I need to do to just reverse all this. And so we have Karen, who is starting to kind of be kind of dragged into her grave. And so once Karen seems to go away here, we then have yet to come that goes on and saying like, okay, I've wrapped it up, guys. We have possibly just a couple more minutes, and then Karen's gonna wake up and have this Christmas morning feeling. So Karen ends up waking up to her neighbors that are all playing kind of street hockey with these balls and these brooms, and so I guess Karen is known to kind of have cops come by to do these violations and kind of get people written up on tickets and stuff like that. So we have Karen come out, and we have one of her neighbors that is to ask her, it's like, well, hey, how about you come in and join us in this kind of street hockey game? Karen's like, okay, like, I think I will. So she grabs this mop and smacks this ball, and then everything stops. We even have this ball that's kind of just stuck in the air. And Karen then is to go on and see all these ghosts that are like, yeah, like, Karen's finally realizing that she should go on and be redeemed. So they're going on and telling her that she's redeemed, and she hopes that she's gonna like stick to this. And Karen's like, yeah, like I definitely will. All right, yeah. So Karen ends up going off and continuing to play her street hockey, and they're like, okay, they're like, that's a wrap, folks. Let's go on and let's go into the afterlife office and kind of finish up our paperwork and hope for the best. So we all of a sudden have a number of the people in this afterlife office that are all of a sudden starting to sing and dance, and we have them go on to sing like Christmas Morning Feeling is to be this song because it's a musical movie. So we all of a sudden have Margot come in with these freshly dead people, and they end up stating it's like, well, wait a minute, like people are like singing and dancing here, and Margot is like, well, yeah, like that's what the afterlife is like, singing and dancing. It's like, okay, all right. So we have them go on to listen to this Christmas Morning Feeling, and we bizarrely have one guy who asks, it's like, well, hey, like, is there anybody that goes on in the afterlife and kind of cleans browser history? So we end up going on and having one guy who's like, oh my god, like these people are dancing, and so hey, if I go up there and I dance, like I'm gonna really put it down. I'm really gonna do a good job here. So we go on to have Will, who kind of sneaks away to the Hall of Redemption, and or Hall of the Redeemed. My bad, a little bit of a mix up there because I screenshotted it. So we have present that goes into this kind of Hall of the Redeemed, and we see certain like celebrities kind of focused on like Dolly Parton or Jimi Hendrix and stuff like that. So Karen ends up being the new statue that they have gone on and accomplished this great goal. So we had Present who was slipping away, and Margot goes on to find him and states like, well, like it seems like you've been doing this like for 46 seasons. Wow. Like you should really go on, and you should really like go on to retire and take your like second chance at life. Like wouldn't you want to go on and have some like figgy pudding, or wouldn't you like to go and just kind of like have a wife or kids or whichever? So we had Margot that goes on and states like, man, I would love to just kind of go back and kind of drink, because that's what Margot, I guess, used to do in her other life. So after Margot leaves, we all of a sudden have Will, who's like, well, like, should I deserve my like Christmas morning feeling? Should I go on and get this second chance? Do I deserve it? And so we have Will that is to all of a sudden talk to uh, Jake Marley. I think it's either Jake or Jack. Either way, I'm probably going to call him Marley anyways. So we have Marley that comes in to speak with Present, and so Marley is to just go on of like, well, hey, like I guess you're kind of dealing with like the whole aftermath of getting another person redeemed, and Present is like, no, I think it's a little bit more than that. So we go on to have Marley that's like, oh, okay, well, like, well, hey, like, just kind of shrug that all off, and let's go on and let's get our next case. Let's find the next person that we can go on and redeem for the good of mankind. So they go on to this this kind of the Copperfield Hotel in Vancouver, so that's Canada. And because of course I've seen a number of like Vancouver Vancouver shows to like, oh yeah, this is Canada. But anyways, it also states that on the sign. So The sign states Vancouver welcomes National Association of Christmas Tree Growers. And so we, and also it has a Canada sign on this establishment. So we go on to have Present and Marley that are kind of looking at this hotel manager called Mr. Altelli, and it seems like this is going to be the guy, because of course he goes on and talks to Walter the janitor, who is to not only have a mustache but is to also have a unibrow, and so Mr. Um, Altelli is like, all right, like you should kind of leave, and because you look like scum, janitor. And so we have Marley that's like, this is the guy, like this guy's an a-hole, like we should go after him. So we have Present that's just like, no, like I think we can find a bigger fish. Like I think we should really find something that has like a big ripple, to really help out or humankind. So that of course is when Clint walks in and is to talk about his senator scandal and how uh Clint is to state, it's like, I don't care if you've gone on and like you've slept with all these women, or all these teachers, president, or that. I don't care if you've gone on and like slept with a number of different teachers, senator, but like go on and try to get this scandal out here, so that way, like you'll go on and you'll look good in front of the press, you'll get out there. So we have Present that is looking at Clint right in the eyes. He's like, oh my god, like this guy, like already, like something's about him. So Present starts to follow Clint to then realize that he is going to be uh this media group speaker, and he is to be this media consultant. It's same kind of thing. So we end up coming on to have Clint go out there and start talking to these people, and we have him be a part of this whole uh National Association of Christmas Tree Growers. Like he's there to talk to these people. And so he used to mention how he goes on and charges far too much for his services, and like for good reason, because it always works out in the end. So we have, of course, Clint coming up with this scheme to have these tree growers, instead of going on and having a bunch of people go and buy plastic trees, because it's cheap and it's easy to just get one kind of shipped to your house conveniently. We go on, we have Clint, who is to come up with a song that they're bringing back Christmas. They're bringing back the old-fashioned way of doing things. Of course, so that way it can kind of bring back the nostalgia of things. So, and how like these people are going to go on and have to be like aggressive, even though he realizes that they're desperate. So we have Clint going on and singing to these people and putting candy canes in their mouth, and Present ends up going on to state, it's like, oh my god, he's literally having them like feeding like he's literally like feeding, he's literally feeding he has them in the palm of their hands. He's kind of literally like feeding them all this information, and they're gobbling it up. So Will is turning to his people. It's like, we're going to need to look into this guy. Like, this guy is going to be the guy, because this guy knows how to corrupt everybody and get them on his side to where they are to create all kinds of chaos in a very negative way. So, like, this guy is definitely going to need to go on and need to be the redeemed guy. So we even have at one point where like Jimmy Fallon is going on his talk show and is talking about like the different kinds of like plastic trees and natural trees, and kind of stirring up a debate. And Clint's like, yeah, like we got him. And so we go on to have them all kind of assessing. It's like, man, like, yeah, this is going to be the guy. And we have like Ghost of Christmas Past that is saying like, yeah, this guy is hot. And and it's going to be a dream to go after this guy because he's good looking. And so we all of a sudden have Marley, who slaps this file on to Present's table and is to have a stamp of unredeemable, that this person is too far gone. And so Present gets out of his table and is to make his way to Marley to convince him. It's like, no, like, you need to have me take this on, or I'm going to retire right now. And Marley's like, are you sure about that? And he's like, yeah, if you do not give me this, I will retire. So Marley is to show him the gold watch, the gold stopwatch. And before Present like starts to take it, he's like, well, you know what, I think I can go on and just continue to do some good. Marley's like, yeah, I thought so. But so Marley ends up giving him the case. It's like, okay, like we'll give you this one last hurrah. So we go on to have Will look into this case. And so we have Clint, who goes to his office where his assistant, who is Kimberly, is telling him about his niece, who of course is Ren. So we have Clint, who's trying to like figure out a way to kind of weasel himself out of this. But so we have Clint that is to go on and talk to Ren. It seems that Ren is to have a problem that she thinks that Clint could help her out with. So Ren is trying to go for school president or class president, and she's going up against a kid named Josh, and Ren is kind of hoping that we would have Clint here who could give her some pointers. So we have Clint, who is like, you know what? Like, I think Josh is gonna win this. Like, I don't even think that you should give it a second thought. And so Ren just kind of walks off, and we have Owen, that of course is Clint's brother, that is telling him, it's like, well, hey, like you know what, this is like Carrie's daughter, and like you should really try to, you know, like you should really like help out this girl. And so Clint is like, okay, fine. So we have Clint that's talking to Ren. It's like, well, okay, like, how much do you know about Josh? And so we have Ren that goes on to state that it's like, oh, well, like, he goes on and, like, helps at this, like, this homeless shelter. And so we go on to have Clint, who's telling Kimberly, his assistant, it's like, well, hey, like, go on and find any dirt that you can on Josh. And Kimberly's like, seriously, I'm doing a thing to dig up on this kid. Like, this is getting ridiculous. So we have Clint who's asking Ren, it's like, well, like, what are his grades like? And he's like, well, or Ren's like, well, he's a straight A student, and so am I. And so Clint is telling Ren, it's like, well, go on and just start, like, bombing all your classes, and, like, all of a sudden you're gonna be, like, everybody's gonna love you, and you'll be way better off. So we go on to have Kimberly that is going into her office to look up this this kid, and she's like, what am I doing with my life? So we go and have Kimberly, who sings this amazing song, which I really liked it, which of course was looking out the window, stating like what her life is like from the view from here, and how Kimberly's almost stating that she thinks that she should go on and just kind of quit this job because, of course, like, she could be way better off. So Kimberly is to storm to her boss's office, Clint, and want to resign. And by the time that she goes on and knocks the door, we of course have Clint, who's like, well, did you find any dirt on him? And before we could really have Kimberly get the words out, she's like, well, yeah, like, I did find dirt on him. So we have Kimberly, who is to kind of uncover this one video of Josh going on and talking about homeless people in a bad way. So we have Clint that's like, all right, we can use this against him. Isn't that great? So we have that seemingly work out to resolve Clint's problem. And so as Clint is making his way back to his place to get in his, like, GQ Santa outfit, and is to kind of get ready for this party, we all of a sudden have him getting much more ready for him to be visited by Marley, who is to come as the chain ghost. So we all of a sudden have, weirdly enough, we have Clint that is being seen by Marley, and at one point Clint is now, like, on his ceiling, standing up, and he's like, what the heck is going on? He doesn't know what is up and what is down. We have Marley that goes on and is to tell Clint to, like, touch his chain and to see the weight of which that Marley has carried. So we have, of course, Marley, who is singing this song about the story of Clint's life. And so we all of a sudden have Clint that is trying desperately to interrupt, to just be like, well, wait, like, isn't this just like the Scrooge thing? Like, aren't you going to tell me that I'm going to be visited by three spirits? And Marley's like, okay, fine. Like, and so he just kind of gives up and he leaves. So we all of a sudden have the ghost of Christmas past that shows up first, and she all of a sudden is talking to Clint, and Clint is to say, it's like, well, like, that, uh, that last ghost kind of, left me a little bit dirty. Maybe I should go on and go into the shower. And the ghost of Christmas past is like, all right. So, because this girl obviously has immediate feelings for this guy, like she can't help it. So, we all of a sudden have the ghost of Christmas present that is kind of off at his office, just kind of working on things. And we all of a sudden have the ghost of Christmas past who is to come in while present is talking to yet to come, and yet to come is just saying like, hey man, like, I want to talk more. I don't want to just point. Like, I want to do something more than this. And we have present that goes on to speak to yet to come. It's like, well, hey man, like, when you point, like, I get chills, like, I get scared. And so, like, hey man, like, really, like, it always works. And we have at some points where yet to come has tried to talk at some points before, but it just doesn't really work out when he actually has to go on and do any of these cases. So we have Ghost of Christmas Past that comes in and states like, well, hey, like, I went in there and all of a sudden one thing led to another and I slept with a guy. So, like, Ghost of Christmas Present, you're just going to have to go on and you're going to have to just kind of take over and do double duty. You're not only going to have to go on and do my job, but then you're going to go on and do yours. And Ghost of Christmas Present is like, what? Like, huh? Like, how did all this happen? So, we have Ghost of Christmas Present that is now taking the reins. And so we go on into Clint's past to find out when he was a young lad that he had a mother that at one Christmas was to give him this dog bowl for a Christmas present and stated that there was a puppy there. But oh, all of a sudden this door was open and the dog is now gone. Oh, what a coincidence. So we have present then goes on to realize it's like, oh my god, like, your mother was to go on and fake that you had a dog. How horrible is that? And we have Clint that goes on and states, it's like, well, like, no, I actually learned a thing or two from this whole thing, from this whole situation. And so, like, we have Will that's like, oh my god, like, this is awful. So Will then turns around to realize it's like, well, hey, like, I'm going to go on and show you a person that you in your past had fallen in love with. So we showcase Clint in his office in the past and showcasing the first time he had ever gone on to met a girl named Nora. So Will is a showcase to Clint that Clint is kind of talking about this computer and talking about Twitter and how it's going to go on and be everywhere. And it's going to be this like whole hashtag thing, and there's going to be this whole movement going on. So we have all of a sudden where Nora is talking to Clint. It's like, well, yeah, like, I think you're right about all this. So the next thing we end up seeing is now Clint is to be now in this mall. And he is sliding down this slide, kind of like the Christmas Story, where we go on and we had in the Christmas Story, the kid ends up sitting on Santa's lap and then gets shoved down this slide after he goes on and states like, well, yeah, I want this BB gun. And Santa goes on and states like, well, you're going to shoot your eye out, kid. So Clint is now with Present, and so Clint is kind of looking around and it's like, wait a minute, like all these all these stores. Hey, there's a Sephora over there, and we go on to have President who states like, well, yeah, like we have like some offer with them, meaning that like Sephora didn't exist during this time period, but I guess they're really kind of pushing like some bizarrish like sponsorship going on with this film, or just making it a joke about Sephora because they're an existing company. So we go on to have the moment where Clint and or past Clint is to finally break up with Nora because Nora can't take it anymore and she thought she can go on and like fix Clint, but she realizes that like it just won't happen, that it's a mistake. And she finally goes on to leave him. And so we then go to the moment that Ghost of Christmas Present would go on and call the kicker. So we have the moment that a Clint goes to this hospital, and we have Clint that's like, no, like I don't want to go through this memory again. And President's like, no, you're gonna go in there. And so he tries, and then he tries to bail. So we have Clint that's like, well, you know what? You're going into a lot of like personal stuff for me. Like, and I don't know anything about you. Like, you're a stranger to me. So how about I go on and how about I get to know something about you? And so Will is like, well, like that, or the Present is like, that's not what we're here for. Like, we're here to kind of redeem you, not redeem me. So we go on to find out that Will, when he started with this whole kind of afterlife office, we had him go on and at first like start with like research and kind of gone on to like work his way up to be the ghost of Christmas Present. And so the further and further they're talking, we all of a sudden realize that that possibly Present is to probably feel that he hasn't gone on and really done like real effective change in the time that he has gone on to do this whole thing. So, and that's why he's going on and picking Ryan Reynolds' character Clint, because he feels like if he can go on and save this one guy, he can even save himself. Because we'll find out later why. So we finally go on after Clint and both Present start to talk. It's like, well, okay, will you go on and you go through this whole memory? And so Clint is like, okay, all right. So we have Clint in this flashback talking to Dan, and Dan is a state because of this senator scandal that he doesn't know if he can go on and keep Clint employed with this company. And we have Clint that's like, oh really, like you're gonna fire me? It's like, well, you know what, if I go on and have you fire me, I'm just gonna take all of your clients And Dan's like, well, but you have a no compete clause. And Clint is like, well, yeah, like as if you're gonna honor that, and there's nothing you can do. So Clint wants to go on and leave and start his own business, and the one person he takes with him is Kimberly, and he tells her, it's like, well, hey, like, you know what? I think that like you are kind of wasted potential here, and I'm going to go on and pay you a lot more than this guy is, and so if you just come with me. So Kimberly's like, all right, like, let's go. So we then go on into uh, Josh. So we're going into, of course, the moment uh, where it was kind of just like uh, things that just kind of just recently happened. So we have Clint that's convincing Ren to have some dirt on Josh, all while Josh is going on at this homeless shelter to help out the needy, and Josh's dad is taking pictures of him, and it's like, well, hey, how about you go on, you post this like on your social media, and maybe you'll kind of win your school election if you go on and you do this. So we have Josh that does go through with it, but he feels bad about it, like he is having uh, second thoughts about doing it. So we have present that goes on to have at some point where we have uh we have Clint that is starting to like sing this whole song about like life choices, and is kind of singing this song against Will, trying to get him out of, like, well, hey, uh like we have Clint trying to do what Present is trying to do to him. So it's really rather interesting. So then we end up going on to have Present push Clint back into that whole same moment with his sister at this hospital. So Clint goes on to watch on and sees this whole thing play out again. And so Clint is talking to his sister Carrie, and Carrie is asking Clint to be Ren's guardian because he has money, and he knows that she'll be taken care of if Clint takes on Ren. And Clint is to kind of sponge this whole thing off on Owen, and is to say, no, 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 like, Owen, like, you go on and kind of listen to what Carrie has to say. And we have Clint that is to walk off. So we have Clint that is to again just be like very frustrated about this whole moment, and is to start to run off. And so President is realizing that he's going to have to chase after him. So we all of a sudden find that Clint is just kind of running out of this place, and it gets to the point where all of a sudden one of the kind of like afterlife officers go on to, and I know that this isn't the technical term, but I'm just kind of stating this anyways. So one of them kind of come in and are starting to talk to Clint and trying to convince him to no longer run, and that ends up having Clint run into this one doorway that is to lead him to like the afterlife offices. So we have Clint that is just like, all right, like we're kind of on toe to toe. So we have Clint that goes into Will's office to find out that the Ghost of Christmas Present was to deem Clint to be unredeemable. And it's like, aha, like the toes on the other foot now. All right. So yeah, so Clint is to know all of seemingly presents, Ghost of Christmas presents, Ghosts of Christmas presents kind of secrets. Also, we start to have Clint question why there are so many pictures of Kimberly all over Present's wall. And we also had the moment when Present was listening to Kimberly's song. We even had a moment where Present interjects in his estate. It's like, well, hey, like, you're a really nice person. And Kimberly's like, what are you talking about? Like, huh? What? So we have all of a sudden Will and Kimberly start talking, and we then realize that for some reason Will can be seen by Kimberly because I guess he's allowing it to happen in some kind of way. So every time we'll see Kimberly talking to Will in the future parts of scenes, it's because like she is somehow just seeing this guy pop up everywhere. So he's having to try and figure out a way to kind of like write him out of this whole problem, kind of talking to two different people at the same time. So we go on to have Will, that is to kind of break protocol, so to speak, and we have Will that is to take Clint on this journey to the 1800s. So we have Clint who's very confused, is like, well, what's going on here? So we artificially have Present show Clint, it's like, well, hey, like, I'm going to show you, since you want to know me so badly, I'm going to show you who I was when I was still alive. So Clint is like, okay, all right. So come to find out, we realize that the Ghost of Christmas Present in his past life was to have been Scrooge himself. And so we have Clint that's like, oh my god, like, so, like, that story, like, that Scrooge story, like, that was all written because of you? And we have Ghost of Christmas Present that's like, yeah, I was that guy. So Clint is like, oh my god, like, alright. So we end up finding out that the reason why Will wanted to change Clint was simply so he can go on and like redeem an unredeemable, who of course was also him. And Present was to go on and state that, like, when he was to go on and do all of this work, he was still trying to work off all the bad that he had gone on and done in the past. So when all these ghosts were to arrive and haunt Scrooge's character, come to find out, after Scrooge was to have this Christmas morning feeling moment, this like, oh my god, like I should change my life for the good. And so Clint is to state, it's like, well, okay, like, well, like, then, like, how much time did you have, like, after you had this kind of eureka like moment? Like, how long did you have to, like, really change things? And we have President that goes on and states, like, well, like after I had this kind of this break moment, I lived 3 weeks after, and then I died. And he was like, wait a minute, three weeks? And so President is like, well, yeah, you don't get it. Like during the 1800s, like we had times where we would have to kind of get through like months like January, and because a lot of people would just get killed by like a month. So Clinton's like, okay, all right, okay. So very, very simpler times. We even had them go on and start to be seen by people in the 1800s, and they were drinking this beer, and we have Clint who's like, oh my god, this tastes like pee. So we go on to have Clint, and we have Present, and we all of a sudden have, of course, uh, uh, during this time period, I guess, for someone to insult somebody, all they would need to go on and do is say, good afternoon. So, come to find out, we had Clint who's like, aha, like, good afternoon. So, we have Clint that's like, well, hey, like, you should go on and you should say good afternoon to somebody. And the Ghost Christmas Present is like, no, I can't go on and do that. Like, I'm trying to redeem, like, not only you, but myself. But then, so Clint goes on and does this whole song about, like, no, you should be able to, like, say good afternoon to people. And, like, if you really feel that, it's like, you should be able to say it. Like, you shouldn't have to, like, restrain yourself. So, we finally go on to have Ghost of Christmas Present that goes on and says good morning or good afternoon to people, and is like, what did you say? What? So we have Marley that comes in, and we have him say it's like, well, hey, you're going off script, and I can't allow this to happen. So we have forcibly that Clint is going to be shoved off to go to bed, so that way Marley can correct Clint here, or correct Ghost Christmas Present while Clint is gone. So next up, we have this holiday party, and so we have the Ghost of Christmas Present that is coming to Clint in his traditional kind of iconic presentation of the way in which that he is most likely to be seen by a number of different stories. And we have Clint that is go on and look at Ghost Christmas Present. Like, dude, like you're going on full on like the story. And Will's like, well, yeah, like I gotta go on and do this on script because my boss will get mad at me. So we go on to have both Clint and Present make their way to kind of fly all around all over the city to just land right back at this holiday party. And Clint was like, we were just here. And we have Ghost of Christmas Present that's like, well, like, I know, but uh like there's a lot of hard work that goes into all these transitions, so like we got to make this work. So Clint is to listen in on ghost whispering going on uh between his friends, or also like between his brother and just a number of other people. So we all of a sudden have a bunch of Clint's friends that are all talking about like, well, hey, uh like this guy does seem all well and good, but like you don't want to get on his bad side kind of thing. So they're talking crap about him. And so his brother is like, well, hey, yeah, I know that this guy might be like an unsavory guy, but like he's kind of been through some things, and he's my brother. So we have Clint that goes on and states like, well, hey, yeah, like they're really like doo-doo whispering, crap whispering. And so we all of a sudden have Kimberly, who is to see Ghost of Christmas Present. It's like, oh, hey, Roberto, or whatever his goofy name was, that he stated that his name was. So we go on to have Ryan just realize like, well, hey, like we should get going with what I'm doing and not focus so much on you and Kimberly, because I know that you want to so badly just be an item. So Will is to go on, and I think I'm doing these a little bit out of order with this movie, but it is what it is. So we have Will and we have Clint, and so we have Will that has gone on and kind of shown Clint like everything that he could possibly show him. And we have Clint that goes to this ice skating rink, and Ren is to possibly go on and is gonna want to put this photo out of, or this video out of Josh doing this bad thing, and it seems that Ren is tempted to just put it out there so she can win this school election. And we go on to, of course, have Will that is telling Clint that he's like, well, hey, like, you know what? I've kind of shown you everything that I need to show you. They go back to the party, and so we have Ghost of Christmas Present that sets up for Clint. That's like, well, hey, like, you're gonna go on and you're gonna see Ghosts of Yet to Come. So really, he just points a lot, and so kind of get ready for that. So we have Will that leaves, and we Will, it's like, okay, I think now, like, since like I kind of done everything that I could, like, I think I'm gonna finally just go on and retire. So Will goes on to take this stopwatch, and he retires. And so both Clint and both Ghost Christmas Present, that is maybe Roberto at this point, we have them both in the same bed together, and we have Ghost of Christmas Present that is now a human. So he goes on into the shower and is taking the shower because he's like, oh my god, like this is amazing, this is wonderful. So we have at this party that is still going on, we have, of course, or maybe it's another party because I'm not quite sure if Kimberly still has the same outfit on it. Like maybe it's a whole week of Christmas parties. So Will is now in this kind of this clothes that obviously doesn't fit him because it's Clint's. So we have Kimberly who meets up with Will, and Will's like obviously like clothes are way too tight, and she's like, well, hey, I think I like it, I think it seems very European. And Will's like, well, yeah, I get all my clothes from Germany. So we have them all of a sudden talking. It's like, well, hey, do you want to go out somewhere? Like Heaven on a Stick. It's like, well, hey, like Heaven on a Stick is actually a restaurant. So they're both going out to eat or just try to talk or something. So we have Ryan who realizes that the ghost yet to come is coming after him and is pointing. And so we have Clint who's kind of grabbing everybody that he can kind of talk to. It's like, well, hey, like, are you pointing at this person, right? And it's like, no, you. So we go on to then have Will and Kimberly, and they're going on and again having this view from here kind of duet thing going on, where we have Kimberly who's like, well, like this guy's nice, like it seems that my life could become like a real benefit with him, and like that's the view from here. And we go on and we have Will who's kind of like, what am I doing with this woman? Like, is this the right move? And that's the view from here. So it's kind of like this this really interesting duet where it seems like they're kind of both like made for one another. And so we go on to have uh yet to come go on to bring Clint to this future. And so the first thing that Clint is to do is go to this school where he comes to find out that Ren, while she becomes this class president, is to get this text. So come to find out, Josh was to have died because of this whole moment of him getting shamed and ridiculed and whatever. So we all of a sudden have this big memorial for Josh, and we have Clint realize, he's like, oh my god, like I started all of this, like I did this, like maybe I can go on and figure out a way to change this. And so we have Ryan that is to kind of meet up with the Ghost of Christmas Present again. And so we have Clint that realizes that he needs to go on and stop Ren from sending out this video because it's the right thing to do. And I guess Will or Clint, neither one of them have a cell phone on them. Just like, hey, don't send that video, tweet. So he couldn't have called her. So we have Clint running to this skating rink to try and tell Ren not to do any of this. So, come to find out, we also have both Clint and Ghost Christmas Present talking about Kimberly, and Will's like, I don't know, I don't know if this is gonna work, and so, like, talking about dating and all this stuff, and so it's like, man, okay. So, we have them kind of walk away from this taxi, and the taxi driver says, good afternoon, and Will's like, what the hell? And so we have Clint's like, no, like, this is a different time, it doesn't mean that. So we go on to have Clint that runs to find Ren, and come to find out, we have Kimberly that is to tell Clint that Kimberly convinced Ren not to go through with it because overall Kimberly is a good person, and so come to find out, like, the Ghost of Christmas Present is like, well, okay, that, like, this is kind of all over and done with, and Clint was to try to rush to Ren to convince her to not go through with this. So, like, obviously, like, Clint is to have this kind of Christmas morning feeling moment, and so Will is just kind of looking for all the spirits to come out and congratulate Clint on doing this good deed, but they're not coming. And so we have Ghost of Christmas Present that's like, well, okay, why is it that that these ghosts aren't here? And so Clint states is like, well, like, because this moment is not significant enough to have me really change. Because Clint just states that he's just going to go back to work Monday morning and go back to his same job and kind of just forget that he did any of this, and it's not going to have any real ripple effect, or it's not going to really change Clint in a way to redeem him. So Clint and the Ghost of Christmas Present is to have gone on to have Will realize that he should not have retired. That he should just go back, and maybe there's time to go on and find another person that it will work on, and maybe desperately we have Will who's like, maybe I should just figure out a way to undo what I've done. So we also had Clint, who is to see his own grave and to literally see his old self die off while working at his office one night. And so I want to kind of get that out of the way. But we also had Clint, who was to look at his grave and realize how old he was, and he's like, man, like, I lived a pretty good life. But again, we have the ghost yet to come who's just kind of pointing. We also have the ghost of yet to come who is just kind of frustrated because he had lost his only friend, and it's all because of Clint. And Ghost of Christmas Past is like, oh my god, yet to come, like you're talking to this guy. And so it's like, well, yeah, like, he's very upset. So, but anyways, we have Will and Clint, and we have Ghost of Christmas Present that is to push himself in front of this bus, and Clint is to push him out of the way, and all of a sudden everything stops. And that's when all the ghosts start to line up, and they're like, oh my god, Clint, you did it. Like, you sacrificed yourself for another person. And we, of course, have Clint, who is a state that him and Ghost Christmas Present are to be kind of buddies. So we have Marley that's like, okay, like, I think we finally wrapped this up. Like, I think we should just go on and just have chili. So we all of a sudden have things go on and play out here, and we find that Clint's character ends up getting run over by this bus and killed. So we have, of course, Clint, who's like, wait a minute, like I was to go on to do this thing, like, and you killed me off? And they're like, well, yeah, like think about it, like, you put yourself in front of this, but like, did you think you were really gonna live from that? So we have Clint, who's just like, well, okay, I guess it is what it is. So we all of a sudden have them go on and sing this song about doing good. And so we also had Ryan, who was to go on and see his sister Carrie kind of come to him from heaven. So we come to find out that Clint will be, of course, the new Ghost of Christmas Present, and he, of course, will work in the afterlife office. So we have Ryan that's talking to Marley, and he's kind of like really setting and organizing all these things for them to go on and do. And Marley's just like, oh, okay, all right, well, it seems like Clint has gotten everything in hand. So we all of a sudden have Clint that is realizing the Ghost of Christmas Past is having this issue trying to figure out how to work on this latest case. And so the Ghost of Christmas Present is like, well, okay, like, I'll try and figure something out. And like, he ends up kissing the Ghost of Christmas Past, so like, they're like together, it seems. So we have the Ghost of Christmas Present that goes to Kimberly's place, and Kimberly is telling the Ghost of Christmas Present, it's like, well, like, you know what, you knocked on my door, but you know I can't see you. So the Ghost of Christmas Present has to let Kimberly see him. So we have the Ghost of Christmas Present that is looking with Kimberly outside as of course Will is going on and kind of fixing this whole playground for his kids, for his two kids. So we have Clint that is talking to Will, and they're trying to figure out, like, okay, like, what does all of this paperwork mean? And Will goes on and states, is like, well, like, it obviously shows at one point in this person's life that they were in love, and you can kind of really go on and use that against them to get a person to be redeemed that way. And we go on to have Clint is like, well, that's it, like, that's the way we're gonna have to work it. So we all of a sudden have them realize that it's like, okay, well, like, this is the end of our movie here, so I guess we should just have this like this comeback song. And so they end up all starting to sing like the Christmas morning feeling yet again, where it seems that they even go on and have like the whole cast just kind of like involved in this kind of just uh, credit rolling song. So we go on and even show like the whole cast of this movie, or the whole behind the scenes of this movie, and all these people that had gone on to work on this film. So we also had at some points in this movie there was a bunch of like tap dancers being used in this film. Like I guess they were really trying to pull out all the stops to make sure that this seemed like a very musical movie with tap dancers and whatever being used. But so with that said, I'm going to go on and get out of here. I know there were certain parts of this movie where I got a little bit confused or got kind of switched around. But there's a lot of crap that happens in this film. There's a lot of transitional things that happen. And so there was obviously certain moments in this film where I kind of got a little mixed up, or I had to go on into like, oh yeah, remember this one scene that I completely forgot about? And it was kind of funny the one moment in the kind of the song where both Ryan and Will were sharing a shower together. That was kind of funny. Um, but yeah, so with that said, that kind of wraps up this movie, and this will wrap up my review of it. So let me know in the comments below how you felt about Spirited. If you liked this movie, you hated it, if you felt indifferent about it, because I am going to indifferently just going to call this one a wrap anyways. So with that said, goodbye everybody. Bye everybody. Oh, we also had Carrie, who's working in the Afterlife office, kind of going on and kind of thumbing through. Uh, I wish I could have gone on and probably spotted any names of certain like things, but I just kind of really pushed through this movie and tried to wrap it up. So with that said, goodbye everybody. Bye everybody.